Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Shaw, and this is Vanguards of Democracy. Today's episode features two community leaders who bring balance to both sides of Tampa Bay, one through promoting the arts and the other through business and equity. My longtime friend and fraternity brother, Stanley Gray, will be in the studio today to discuss his work with the Urban League of Hillsborough County, one of the premier organizations boosting community-based investments and equal business opportunities. But first, I'm here with Ed King, Chief Operating Officer of Creative Pinellas, to learn about the power of the arts to shape and strengthen our sense of community, as well as promote individual growth in everyone, young and old. That interview starts right now, so stay tuned. Welcome to Vanguards of Democracy. This is Sean. We're happy to have you with us today. Thank you for joining. I've got a guest today in the studio that is, we've been talking, and it's going to be a good segment because it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a little bit different than what we usually talk about in a good way. And that is Ed King from Pinellas. Thanks for coming over, Ed. How are you doing, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
No, of course. Ed is with Creative Pinellas, and we're going to talk about what that is and get into that a little bit. But Ed, I just want to talk about you a little bit, man. Like you said, you recently moved here.
That's right. May 1st.
May 1st. Like, what's it like? Where'd you move from? All that good stuff.
Well, I lived on Miami Beach for years. I mean,
right.
a long time, and worked in Fort Lauderdale for an organization called ArtServe, a service and support organization for artists. The mission is to serve the county, serve the citizens, to bring art and uplift people's lives through the arts.
Miami Beach.
That's right.
How do you like St. Petersburg compared to Miami Beach?
Okay, so I'm just going to keep it straight.
Right.
Very different towns, right? The number of Porsches, Maseratis, Bentleys that I see.
I always say the average car in Miami is a BMW. The average car.
Right. And so that has diminished a little bit, but your sand on your beaches is so much better.
Beaches are
I
nice.
love being on your beaches. And now they're my beaches.
Right.
So
probably
I love
a little bit
it.
cheaper to get to those beaches too. But I love Miami Beach. I'm going to Miami Beach later next week, so I need to save up my money so I can
Yes, you do.
get some dinner. Tell us about, you moved here to be the Chief Operating Officer of Creative Pinellas.
That's right.
What is Creative Pinellas? What kind of things do y'all do over there?
Well, it was a perfect fit, the transition, because the mission of Creative Pinellas is very similar to where I came from. We want to uplift people through the arts.
Tell me more about that. What exactly does Creative Pinellas do to do that, to accomplish its mission?
Wow, that is multiform. So we offer grants. We have a space that has the ability for people to show their artwork at our location. We support educational initiatives like Spacecraft that bring the arts to the community in different zones of Pinellas. And we're a county organization, so we don't serve just Largo or just St. Pete, right? We serve the entire county. So we can make sure arts initiatives that benefit people benefit the entire county and not just one or two zones.
Let me ask you this. Why is the art so important? Now, that's a huge question, I know. But talk about the importance of the arts. It's not just the icing on the cake. That's not what arts is. Arts is a super fundamental part of certainly one's educational process coming up, but in addition to that, it's reflective of a community itself. Talk to me about why the arts is important, how important it is.
All right, so I'm gonna break it down in two ways. First way is it's almost invisible on the everyday Joe or Jane Q citizens level, right? They wake up and the arts are already in their lives and they don't even know it. It's on the milk carton, it's on their watch, it's on a billboard, but they don't notice that it was done by a graphic artist, right? They just see it. So it's all around us every day, kind of like the Matrix. It's there, but it has to be pointed out to you. But then let's reverse engineer that, right? What would have life been like for John and Jane Q citizen if there were no arts during the COVID lockdown? Music, theater, poetry, videos, movies, Netflix, right? Take it all away. What would the lockdown have been for the average citizen if not for the arts?
Right. It'd have been bad. It'd have been rough.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to talk about the grants a little bit. You mentioned that. What do you do? What do y'all do with your grants? I saw a lot of artist support type grants. What do your grants do?
So the grants are a huge part of our organization because we believe economic vitality supports the entire community and not just the arts economy. So through granting artists, right, we give them the opportunity to grow, to level up in their career, whether it's emerging artists to rise up or support professional artists who are already benefiting the community. We don't have mandates on those grants, emerging and professional, right? We allow the artist to choose the best way that this money will enhance their artistry, right? When it comes to grants like the NEA grant that we were awarded, $500,000 of re-granting to individual artists and arts organizations for COVID recovery. That's huge because we know that COVID impacted the arts profoundly. And if you were a professional dancer or a musician and all of your concerts and gigs got canceled, how did you support your child? How did you go to Publix, right? How did you pay your rent? This COVID recovery is vital to re-energize our arts community, re-energize the creative economy, and thus sparking more activity in our greater economy. This money goes back into our community, gets spent back in our local shops, and right there, we're talking economic innovation, we're talking job creation, right? It benefits the whole county for us to give this money to the arts community.
I had not even thought of that, about concerts getting canceled and how the artists were, particularly local artists.
There's a young man, just a quick story.
Yeah, no, go.
Young man, his name is Alexander Starr down in Fort Lauderdale. He had an entire tour booked. He had a commercial series for one of those local racetracks where you drive the cars around with your family, right? All of that canceled, right? No tour, no commercial to bolster his image, right? What did he do? So that's one example from where I came from of one artist. Now imagine tens of thousands of artists, even millions of artists across the United States. If we as an organization in our backyard in Pinellas County, if we're in a position to use this NEA money to revitalize our creative economy and thus the greater economy, I think we're fulfilling our mission to uplift lives.
What is you got here in May, but I bet you know the answer to this before you got here or you wouldn't have come. What's the art scene like in St. Petersburg?
It's awesome. You know what? It's so do-it-yourself, DIY. I mean, it's easy to see the superficial stuff, right? Murals are everywhere, so that's easy to see. But then you go down one level and you see there's dance performances, theater, live music. I mean, there's so much of a fabric of artistry happening in St. Pete. There's something to do all the time. And here's one thing that matters. The people love each other. There's not this huge competition. Everybody wants to support everyone else. And to see that kind of fellowship happening in the arts community is heartening because it means they're ready to grow. They're ready to level up, and they want to work together to build a greater artistic economy.
It seems like people are ready to start going and do art stuff again, whether that's concerts, whether that is going to the museums. It seems like people are ready to do that again. They're comfortable doing that again. Hopefully we're at the tail end of this pandemic, but do you feel that way? And kind of is the art scene back, and are people spending money? Are the artists now able to support, or how's it going?
Absolutely. First of all, let's take it on the local level. You go to an art festival, right? Like Gasparilla. I can tell you that the artists that I talk to who do the art shows, those art circuits, they say people are spending money better on a level that before the pandemic. So the money they were making in 2019, triple that, and that's what they're getting now.
Wow.
People are just
pent up demand, or
it's pent up demand. And what we know is that over $1 trillion of money was held aside by people who just didn't spend, average Americans. So now that they have an opportunity to go back to theater, go back to art shows, go back to galleries, they want something to do with that money. They want to feel good. And here's the other thing. Coming out of the pandemic, I know that personally, I want to feel human again. And part of that human experience is going somewhere, dropping a little bit of coin, right? And knowing that I'm supporting a local business, a local artist, or a gallery or museum, something in my neighborhood. Being part of that fabric of the community is important, and I'm happy to pay. And I know that my neighbors are happy too.
That's a really good point, because when the restaurants were shut down or even partially shut down, and going out to dinner isn't just about getting a meal and not being hungry anymore. It's about the whole process of going out and getting ready and going and seeing other people. And I know it's the same with the art scene. How does an artist get on your radar for these grants? Do they just apply, or is there competition for these grants, or like, how does it work?
The emerging artist grant and the professional artist grant are competitive grants, right? The process is designed to reward those who put in the work. So there is a long application, right? There is a independent panel of judges who select the artists who score the best on their application. But to find out about it, it's really easy. creativepinellas.org, right? Go to that website, click on the grants button, and you're going to learn about all of our grants. And not just those two that I mentioned, but there's many more. And there's opportunities to attend virtual workshops. We will teach you how to walk all the way through the grant, start to finish. We usually do 4 workshops, so there's ample opportunity to learn about the grants. We send out emails, so join on our email list. We saturate social media. Whenever there's a grant opportunity, we can't stop talking about it. So I would say click that subscribe button on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and follow all of our posts. If you are part of the Creative Pinellas virtual family, you will know everything there is to know about these grants.
What type of artists are we talking about?
That's important to know. When we say artists, I think people tend to go with visual because it's something they can see right around them. But we're talking everything. Theater creation, poetry, literature, could be music, right? Dance, theater, film. So I know there's more. I can't list it off the top of my head. But really, we support arts of all genres. And that's really important. So if there's an artist out there who says, well, you know, I like to write scripts for plays, but I don't know if I qualify for a grant. You do, right? If you're a musician, I'm in a band, I play bass, but can I, as a bassist, earn a grant? Yes, you can. There's so many avenues that we reward artists for their artistry. If there's a question mark, I would always say, call, email me. I'd be happy to walk them through it because we want to support them. It's an open door policy.
Listen, you qualify until someone tells you don't. That is my philosophy in life. I want to talk about you a little bit more, Ed, and how you got into this, the art, growing up, or just tell me about growing up, where you grew up, and how you got into this, because this is very specific, but I bet it's tied to a love of the arts, and I'm trying to get to that point.
It's weird because I was born in Cleveland, raised in Miami, went to high school in Cleveland, went to college in Miami. My dad's a doctor, stepmom's a nurse, my mom's a nurse. There's no art in my immediate family, right? I saw my brother when I was 8 years old. He was trying to draw Chewbacca. And I'm like, if Reggie's drawing Chewbacca, I'm going to draw Chewbacca because I'm the little brother and I want to do what Reggie does.
Right.
So I started drawing Chewbacca, and over time, Reggie kind of peeled off artistically over the years, and I just couldn't stop. And then I found my community. I found my friends, and not just fine art, right? Because I got into guitar, I got into theater, right? I started doing all this stuff. All my friends around me had some sort of artsy thing. And just like Pinellas, where it's this fellowship, right? Where we just want to support each other. My friends, we were competitive, but supportive. We all wanted to be the best, but we wanted to see each other be the best too. Next thing you know, I'm an artist, you know, and I'm exploring and I'm trying new things. It was a fight. And a lot of artists have this story, you know, you talk to your parents and they say, oh, well, you're never going to make money in the arts. Right. So I kind of have a chip on my shoulder. And even today to prove myself and say, no, I can still do it. So every time I get those things, back in the day when I used to get Best in Show or get that ribbon or some sort of press news article in the Miami Herald, stuff like that, every time I was on TV, I was like, see, right?
Yeah.
I did it. And so in my position now, this is the best part. I always say being in the chair is not a job, it's a privilege. It's not a job, it's a career. This is the arc of my life is the arts. So when I see an artist, they come to me and they say, well, I don't know, or I have a question, or maybe I should forget this and go be something else. I can tell you, I tell that person, I've been exactly where you are. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to be down to your whatever amount of dollars and you're questioning everything. And how do you build this into something that's beautiful for your life? I've been there and I support those artists. I tell them my story. I support their story. And it gives me an insight that I think, unless you've lived it, it's really difficult to understand where they are. And I feel like it's my personal mission to make sure those artists know that they have support.
That's a great story. I'm glad I asked. And now I know Chewbacca got you where you are today.
Star Wars.
That might be the best answer I've ever had on this podcast, Chewbacca.
How often do you guys talk about Chewbacca here? I mean,
that's a first. Trust me. That's why I think it's the best. Let me ask you this. Where's your funding come from? Because the arts is always, I've been in budget making places before, and the arts is always an afterthought. You can always spend money on roads and bridges and teachers and first responders. You start talking about spending money in the arts, and unless it's in a particular person's community, you start getting rolls of the eyes when you're in Tallahassee, or maybe even if you were in DC. Where does your funding come from?
So I'm going to preface this by saying I'm new. I started my job May 17th. So there are levels of the job that I'm still not privy to, right? And a lot of the budget is still new to me. So I don't want to answer in full because I don't want to misrepresent the organization. I will say a lot of our funding does come from some of the bed tax in the hotels. So as tourism comes in and there is economic vitality there where they go to our museums, they go to our theaters, they go to our music concerts, right? We know that there's a huge tie between tourism and the arts. So a percentage of that comes back to us as the local arts agency to ensure that we are delivering for the tourist community. So there is a partnership there with the VSPC where we're making sure that that money is being used wisely and expertly to make sure that our visitors and guests are getting a great arts experience here in the county. But I will say this, I think this is less of a budget conversation and more of an education conversation. What if, we're going to go back to John and JQ Citizen, what if they knew every day that they woke up how much the arts affected job creation, how much it affected economic gains, vitality in the community, how much it increased educational outcomes with their children. If they knew that the way they knew about the roads and the bridges and the other things that they can see that need fixing, I feel like there would be massive support for the arts. But I feel like we need to do a better job. And I'll say this, we need to put more energy into making sure John and JQ Citizen on the street have an understanding of how we impact lives and how we impact the community writ large, right? Through economic development, so that they can, when these initiatives come up, they can go to the voting booth, pull that lever for the arts, vote for arts initiatives, or at least lend their support, call their commissioners, call their local politicians and say, I support this, so that we can continue that economic vitality.
Well, let's put some of that energy right now, because I think you're exactly correct. When corporations are looking for a place to move their headquarters, or when they're looking for a place to invest in, they look at certain things. They look at your school system. They certainly look at your infrastructure, but they look at schools, and they also look at the arts. Because the arts reflects a vibrant community. The arts reflect a community that cares about not only their children, but cares about the entire scope of the community. And it's a place where the CEO wants to move. And if the CEO wants to move there, that's where the headquarters are going to be. And if you can have good workers around here, it's all kind of, it's not just, do you have land that I can build a headquarters on? That is not why people move their corporate headquarters to an area. It is about the community and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. So quality of life,
right?
Something
that's
that's
what I meant, quality
something
of life.
That's buzzworthy, something that's, there's a reason why people want to move to Silicon Valley or Austin, Texas.
Austin was the one I was going to give an example of.
And because there is a cool factor, right? Oh, Austin, they've got technology, they've got music, they've got, right? And there's these lists about how cool places are. St. Pete and Pinellas County writ large as a community, I can tell you that buzz is there.
Yeah, it
right?
is.
Pinellas County.
You also have water.
Right, from Clearwater and what goes on there, Dunedin with DFAC and what goes on all throughout from North County to South County, there is buzz. And I've heard, I can't say this for sure, but I've heard that ARC Innovations has wanted to move to this area, that Amazon wants to move. There's other corporate leaders in our that want to come to Pinellas and set up shop. And, there's more job creation. What would attract them, right? They want their employees to feel good. And if they feel good, they're going to get more productivity. And something about being in a cool place that has a cool, vibrant art scene, right? Education's important. The schools are important. The roads are important. But also that other part where that your people are enjoying their quality of life, that's huge. And supporting the arts will lend more favor in that area. I can just bring up an example. Let's go back 20 years and look at a place called Wynwood.
Yeah. That's where I'm staying when I go to Miami, but go ahead.
Right? There you go. Why are you staying there?
Yeah,
right?
It's cool.
Because it's cool.
Yeah.
So 20 years ago, was it cool?
No.
Or
I would not have been staying there. You're
right. There's probably more switchblades at that time than art galleries, right? But look what happened when artists move in and economic development followed, and then now they've got coffee houses, art galleries, apartment buildings. It is the new trendy zone in Miami.
That's such a good example. It's packed, and it's because of all the arts and cool stuff going. It's just cool. There's not another word you can use to describe Wynwood, but you're exactly right.
So wherever artists go, economic development follows, right? So going back to that education issue, are our citizens aware of that? Do they know that, and do they support it? I'm sure they do. We have to do the education. That's the work that we have to put in. But I feel like being on shows like this, having advocates like you and others who can understand how important the arts are and then get behind initiatives that support the arts and the creative economy, I think that will go a long way in developing that attractive energy that brings both corporations and then regular people to move into this zone.
Yeah, Austin was a great example you brought up, because I've been to Austin rather recently, and when I was there, you're going to all these they have all these little different parts of neighborhoods and stuff, and it felt very Pinellas, very Seminole Heights-ish to me. I live in Seminole Heights here, and it's just a cool place to be. There's breweries, there's great food, there's artists, there's music, and everyone wants to be in Austin.
And isn't it cool how they're not separate, right?
Yeah.
If you go to that brewery, they probably have, a mural on the side, or their barrels are probably custom done by a local artist or something like that, where the fabric just comes together with these businesses and artists. There's so much energy happening in collaboration, but that's what's happening here. And I'm so proud that in making this transition that I can represent the organization that way.
No, and we're wrapping up here, but you're exactly right. When people go into that booth and they're asked to vote on maybe a tax increase or an extra here, these things don't happen in a vacuum, right? It's not just like, oh, I support the arts. Am I going to do this or this sometimes? And it's a zero-sum game. And you said it correctly. The arts is not just, you're not doing a bed tax so you can build a studio for artists. This is for economic development. This is to attract corporations. This is to make the quality of life better for everyone. When you do that, that's when you turn into a city that's a cool place to be. And that's when everybody comes there, and then you become a top tier city. Yeah. And that's what we're all striving to do. This is not just about impact in one area. Arts is one of those things that, and you got to think about it because it took me a while, but arts is one of those things, when arts is there, everything is better.
That's right. And that's the long game. So when somebody goes into that booth and they say, well, I have to choose this or this, or maybe it's a politician who says, well, I can only put my energy in one zone. What about the 10th year? What about the 20th year? Going back to Wynwood, if somebody said, we're not going to support it, right? Would you be staying there now? And would all that economic vitality be happening now? Somebody has to see 10 and 20 years into the future and say, there's real transformation that can happen here, but it has to start today.
Right. And I appreciate it, man. This was really good, and I love the Chewbacca origin story that you gave. But man, this is great, and I'm glad we talked about this because this is different, but it is still, everything goes back to who we elect and what the decisions are made, and and how our tax dollars are spent. And this is one that just can have such an effect that affects the whole community. So, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming. I do have a headshot for you to sign. I know you thought it was kind of awkward to see a big picture of yourself in the studio, but I want to give you that. I don't know if we have a pen somewhere. We'll get you one because we got to have the special pen. But I want you to sign that, and we'll put you on the Wall of Fame. And man, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming to St. Pete.
How many eggs can be in this interview?
2. That's enough. But man, I appreciate you coming over, and thank you for joining us here on Vanguards of Democracy. Welcome to another segment of Vanguards of Democracy. Thank you for joining us here. And we're here with someone that has just been on fire here in the community, a fraternity brother of mine. We've got other personal connections. We'll get into it, but it is Stanley Gray. Stanley, thank you for joining us this morning, man.
Well, thank you for the offer and the invitation.
No, of course. And you know, we have a personal connection because one of my college buddies is related to you, correct?
It's a small world.
It is a small world, and he is... and first time I met you brought that up. So I've always had a connection to Stanley because of that. But Stanley, you are someone, and I'm going to brag on you a lot this segment because I always appreciate people, and you're one of them, that sees a problem and addresses it rather than a whole bunch of meetings about it, rather than a whole bunch of going around in circles about it, rather than a whole bunch of blaming others of why the problem exists. Just there's a problem and I need to do something about it. And you recognized that the Urban League here in Hillsborough County needed to be reconstituted, revitalized, and you just set about attacking the problem. And not only did you do that, but you did it in an amazing way, and you shot past the moon on it, and you just had the first gala, the Urban League Gala here in Hillsborough County. So I want to talk about the Urban League here. We've had your counterpart over in Pinellas, our fraternity brother. We had him on before, but I want to talk about what is the Urban League? How'd you bring it back? And we're going to kind of do that little chronological arc here, but what's the Urban League?
Well, the Urban League, what we're trying to do is bring economic equity to the African-American and minority communities. That is the mission. And then you measure it through things such as how are you doing with housing? How are you doing with employment? How are you doing with education, access to medical, and then even legal reform? You know, those are the measurements. But the bottom line is that we're trying to get people to where we can attain economic equity. That's the focus of the organization.
The Urban League here in Hillsborough County, I know, had been absent for a period of time. When did you start working to get it back? When did it come back? And why did you see a need to bring it back? Well,
I think the real need is the number one priority. When you look at what the Urban League stands for and what it has done and what it can do, it's a national brand. And it has resources and direction that can actually help you in your community. So you don't have to start from ground zero. You know, a lot of people start, well, I have my non-for-profit, but you're starting from ground zero. So it takes you a while to get inertia. So why should you do that? You know, when all the things really fall under the auspiciousness of the Urban League. I actually started probably about 3.5 years ago. And it was kind of a systematic way. We got a sponsoring group, people who said, yes, there is a need for the Urban League. And then what we did, we defined what we wanted the Urban League to do and what it should be and what it should not be. And that's kind of a hard thing to do because there's a lot of people who had scar tissue behind the Urban League closing. And then what we did is once we got community support, we contacted the National Urban League and they gave us a process that we had to do. And, we had to do a community assessment. We had to bring in so much money that is either cash or commitments. And then, the community assessment was really hard. It took us about 2 or 3 months. We had a young man, product of Robinson High School, graduate of Johns Hopkins, Avery Foster, who helped us crunch the numbers. And so once we did all that, we submitted and we were affiliated about 7 or 8 months ago. And the thing is just kind of interesting about this. One is you have a lot of naysayers anyway, but we had a whole lot of the naysayers because they said, you're just trying to do this during the pandemic. And I'm saying, so what are we supposed to do? Wait till it's over? The need's not going to go over, going to go away. So we just kind of hunkered down and just, kept our nose and we did it.
You see a problem, you just do it.
Well, I think the other thing about it is that I really do believe in collaboration. I believe in having people, but the problem is that, when you live like that, you go up two, sometimes you go back one because people, they drop out for one reason or the other. But I think the reason why we've been successful is we've been able to bring people into it. And, it would be much nicer if the same people were there when we started, but, life is life.
Well, victory has 1,000 mothers. Isn't that what they say? Failure is an orphan. And clearly you're victorious now. So you're going to have a lot of people coming to your stuff now, but you're exactly right. The ones that were there when you needed them are the ones that are important. How do I join the Urban League? What kind of programs do you have? All that good stuff.
We have a whole host of programs. One of the good things about it, and I'm going to answer your question, is that we're an organization that we can do what you want to do. Because, our big focus right now, we have two things that we're working in. One is education. And specifically, what we're trying to do is get kids to be interested in school so they do well in school, so they stay in school. And we sponsor work with the Hillsborough County school system. We have after-school STEM programs. We have spring breaks STEM camp, which is getting ready to kick off next week. And then we have summer camps. So that's the education portion of it. And the other thing is that we try to find jobs. We call it a pre-apprentice program for kids who've aged out of school, dropped out of school, or returning citizens. That's a costly program, and the reason why we're doing it is because these are people who no one wants to spend any money on. They talk a good game, but when it comes down to it, they don't want to deal with them. And we've probably interviewed about 11 people, and we have one placed. So what it is that when we talk to an employer, we're just not going to throw sand on the wall. This person's committed, and we have a process to make sure that they are.
I remember when we were talking about this a while ago, and you were very adamant, like, you got to pay this person a meaningful wage.
Well, we also don't work with any companies who, after someone has gone through the training period, the probationary period, if they can't pay them to $20 an hour, we're not interested. And the reason why is you're not going to change the trajectory of someone's life paying them $14, $15, even $16 an hour. It's just not going to happen. So, the outcome, if you don't pay them at least $20 an hour, and we know that $21 an hour for a single person keeps you out of poverty in this area, I don't think that's too much to ask.
Let me dive a little deeper. If I'm a business in this, let me say this, I do believe Tampa has a good corporate culture. I think we have good corporate neighbors, corporations that want to do good things in the community, that want to be involved. I think sometimes it's difficult for them to sift through what is real and what is not sometimes. And if I'm a corporation here in Hillsborough County, and I have heard of the Urban League and I want to get involved and I want to help, what can I do?
Well, what I'd ask you to do is not just join to join, but join to be a participant. And I'll give you a good example. Tampa Bay Solar is a great example of this. We've actually placed, not just in our specific program, about 4 people. They have an industry that's viable, even though there's some legislation that just got passed last week that's going to hurt them a little bit. But they are willing to take a risk on people. And we have formed a partnership. They know that we're just not going to throw anybody in there. But, we've had, I think, 4 people and 2 have been successful. That's about what their normal is anyway. But the 2 that we've been successful, had they not had some kind of intervention help, I can tell you right now, they would be what I call on the social welfare. That is in jail or receiving funds from the government. So, we want partnerships. I mean, we're talking right now with someone who just moved into town and, they work in the cyber arena. Well, we think that we can help them. I'm using my past experience as an HR person, as well as what I call my humanistic approach to capitalism. And I think that we can make it a win-win.
I mean, the point is, corporations, you want corporate partners that aren't just sponsors of events and just have their names on stuff, but you want them to have the ability to absorb someone that's been through your training or to hire someone.
Correct. We want participants. And it's really important because if you look at the old Urban League, and I'm not throwing stones, 85 probably +% of their revenue came from government funds. Our method is we want it from individuals, local companies, local foundations, and national foundations. Now, we're not going to turn away money from anybody, but that's our focus. And if you came to our gala and you saw the people were there, you'd see that that's what we're doing. Because that's what's going to sustain the community when we know that, that's what's going to sustain us in the community because we know that we need to have viable partners.
I want to talk about the gala a little bit because I don't want to talk about it just as, it was a nice gala and everybody dressed up, it was nice. I want to this was a signature event. It was an event to somewhat announce we're back. It was an event for people to come and share in that not a kickoff, but share in that celebration of your success. And I know those types of events are not easy to put together. Talk about that first gala, what it meant to you, the work involved, and all that good stuff.
Well, it really was, and you coined it properly. This is almost like a coming out, a cotillion. Yeah. This is an announcement. We've been around. This is to let you know that we're here. Now, one of the things that we really wanted to do is we did not want to have a traditional gala. That is, everybody gets a table. They sit at the table. They only talk to everybody at the table, or unless, they talk to somebody when they're going to the bar, when they're going to the necessary room. We want it to be a mingling event. And I think that we accomplished that. And again, I always tell people, if you relied on me to plan this, it wouldn't have looked like that, okay? But when we had some of our younger members, they said, this is what we want. This is what we want to come to. We listened, and we executed it, and it happened. And, I'm really happy for a good startup point, because one is we earned some money, okay? But more so, I think we earned some capital, interest and capital.
Yeah, people, like that is interesting when the politicians want to come, and when all the people that go to these things want to come, and they're talking about it, and the next time you have one, it's going to be a little bit easier. But now you've got some buzz around you, which means you might have some different avenues to get corporate sponsorships. I was impressed. You asked me to speak to the young professionals of the Urban League, and I remember that night well. One, the food was great because it was at 7th and Grove, but two, it was packed in the middle of a rainstorm. Packed. And that is a testament to the buzz around the Urban League. I did not expect that. But you're an organization that, again, this is the reconstituted version. So you're not starting from scratch, but you got to rebuild the capital. Like you said, you got to get people interested again. And that room was packed, man. I was impressed with that. How are you getting this buzz so fast?
Well, I think one of the things is that we're not trying to be something we're not. Okay. We are a juvenile organization that's not out of puberty. And we know that. And so our expectations for what we do and how we execute it, we're not going to lose ourselves. So in other words, we don't write checks or make promises that we can't fulfill. And it's a little bit hard, because when you're trying to build an organization, you do want to get the notoriety, but you also want to do the accomplishments. And so we're staying in our lanes. Now, what we're trying to do is do things with people who have some passion about something. That's like when you asked earlier, well, what can I do? And my answer is, have it your way. What do you want to do? What can you really commit yourself to? And if you can really commit yourself to it, we'll commit our resources. Now, they'll be measurable, okay? And they have to stay within our axis. But we will do what the community says they want to do. This is not, Stanley sitting in the office and said, oh, I have an idea. No, that's not going to work. We got to get people in the community that are passionate about something, and then we will partner. Everything that we do has two measures. And if it doesn't have this, we just don't do it. Is it hands up? We're not going to hand out things. That's just not what we do. And is it collaborative? And the reason why we want collaborative relationships is because 1 + 1 is not 2. It's an exponential number of 2. If you have 2 people that are committed, or 2 organizations that are committed with their resources and their mind and their focus. And I'm convinced of that. So those are our 2 measures.
Well, let me ask you a loaded question then. How has the collaboration been here in Tampa?
It's difficult, okay? And I'm going to tell you, and I'm saying this not to blast anybody, okay? But to say, folks, we got to do better, all right? One is that if you look at the civil rights movement, when it was most effective, it had basically 3 groups that were like lockstep together. The Jewish community, the African-American clergy, and the white clergy. We don't have them all. Matter of fact, I would say that we're having more assistance from the Jewish community than the other 2 right now. And that concerns me. It concerns me. The other is that we have some organizations they're paramount in our community. If you go back 30, 40 years, they were more evident. But and I'll give you a good example. What we want to do, I said, everything we want to do collaborative. So what we did is we came up with codes for every Black fraternity, sorority, and Black organization. The first 2 weeks selling tickets, we went out to them. The sales was, and we were going to give $10 of every ticket to one of their youth programs. So that's collaboration. That's just not saying, get your people to sign up. We're going to give you something for this, so you can do your programs. Pitiful response. Pitiful. Now, we're going to keep doing it, because everything we do is those 2 things. But folks, we got to wake up.
An organization committed to helping us needs help from us. I hear you.
We have to be together. We have to be together.
I hear what you're saying. Any future plans to do things? What's on the horizon? Any new collaborations or any new programs or any new events?
Our big thing, we'll probably do something social in the spring with the young professionals, but our big deal now is voting. We're trying to become a third-party administrator to do that, and we're going to reach out to every group because, and everyone says, like, well, I can't do anything about national. I say, well, start being selfish. What in your community affects you? So just be focused on local stuff.
I always tell people, you don't solve anything by not voting.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You can complain all you want or whatever. Nothing gets fixed by you not voting.
But you need to really focus in on local issues and bulk. And one of the things we've started is like a little green book. And what we've done is we've gone out to all of the elected officials in this county. We've asked them, where do you stand on the John Lewis Voting Act? Where do you stand on this? You'd be surprised how many of them don't even have what I call the courtesy to respond.
They'll respond when that green book gets published to voters.
Well,
I bet you'll start getting responses.
Well, I mean, we've kept some issues. The Hannah Project, okay? What are the processes, okay? What processes weren't followed, okay? All right, we have this club on Bayshore. You turn a resident into a club. I said, okay, all right, I'm not going to knock that, okay? Whether I like it, that doesn't matter. But did you follow those same processes when the Mongols and the Outlaws moved into East Hampton? Did you follow those same ones? Nothing from any of them. I got a call yesterday from the city, and I said, excuse me, I don't want to talk to you. I asked a city councilman to answer. By you talking to me, that's taking accountability away from him. I appreciate the call, but I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the councilman who I asked.
Well, Stanley, you're exactly correct. And now that you have done this gala, and now that it is a little bit more out there, how successful the Urban League is, you can expect a lot more people reaching out to you to try to get your support and your opinion and your things. And I know that you will keep it as real as you just did. When people are running for office, it is all pixie dust and promises and BS. The day after they get elected is how the person really is. And how they treat you the day after they win is what the person's really like. And you not getting answers, you getting staff returning, that's indicative of just what you said, the level of respect they have. But when it comes time to run, I want you to watch the 360 that happens and how many people come to your door. And we, meaning all of us, particularly in the Black community, need to make sure that we don't accept that.
And we shouldn't, and even to the point whereas you're not doing it to punish them, but you have to correct the record. Right. I mean, I've had people say,
I just want the same.
I've had people say, well, I'm a member. And I said, I didn't say it out publicly, but I said, no, you're not. Anybody knows me knows that I'm sheep. Okay. I know about the dollar. I know every member, especially politicians. So don't come to me saying something in public, because the next time I'm going to out you. In public.
Your organization now is one that everybody wants to be a member of, and everybody's going to want to come to the gala because they know it's not necessarily because the Urban League is great. It's because they want to be seen and they want to be at the event because it's an event you need to be at, and they want to tweet about it and they want to do Facebook about it. And you understand that.
Yeah, we're not going to be played though.
Good.
Okay. What we're going to do is that our next thing, and we're just waiting a couple of days, we'll probably come out toward the end of the week, asking people, one, that were there to sign up to be a member, but also, what do you want to get involved with? Okay. What do you want to get involved with? Our number one thing right now is voting. We've got to get people to understand why they have to vote, get them registered, and then get them to vote. And we'll get close to the new laws and confines, but we're not going to break anything. And, so we've got to do this. And I got to tell you locally, I'm very concerned with some of the people who we have in office. They're not taking care of our interests. They're not taking care of our interests at all.
Well, you got to push them or elect somebody else.
That's true. And they also need to know that they're going to be held accountable.
Bingo. If they get to come to our churches and our events and our fraternity parties and our fish fries and whatever we have and get treated like they're great when they're not for us, then why would they change?
Well, the other thing too is that, I'll give you an example. People said, well, if they buy a ticket, you should make them a member. I said, no, two different things. Right. One's an event. It's quid pro quo. And the other is you're giving and you're going to help us do something. So I'm real adamant about that. But I am very concerned when we have a politician who just shows up and think they can come to your event without paying. That is the ultimate disrespect of an African-American organization. The ultimate disrespect.
Listen, I would buy tables when I was elected, and even if I couldn't come, and I say, you fill the table. Sure. One, because I needed to not have people talking about me. Well, but two, that's how you. But see,
I don't have a problem. Me personally, I don't have a problem with someone saying, I'm not going. Okay, I'm okay with that. Okay, I really am. In some cases, I think that it shows poor strategic mind thought on you as an elected official, not, But I've also had politicians saying, I can't go, but this is what we're going to do. I have something going. And they've explained to me stuff that they didn't have to explain to me. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to judge you. But when you just try to come and just show up, I don't take that disrespect of the Urban League. I think that's disrespect to Black people. Okay? And that's an issue with me.
Like I said, I'm glad you're there. I'm glad you're there because I know you're going to keep it real. Brother, we're at the end here. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I'm glad someone with your personality is doing it. How long are you going to be doing this? Because I know this is not easy.
Well, no, we set a threshold, and that is that when we get $1 million, okay, we're going to look for an executive director, someone who's really going to run the organization. I mean, if you look at my professional career, I've done startups and turnarounds as a civilian. I mean, that's what I've done. We've got this started, and as soon as we get $1 million, because the percentage is what we need to pay that person, we don't want to look bad if we ever, go from foundation, paying 20, 30%. And that's one of the things, the reason why a lot of people don't want to collaborate with you, because they don't want to open their books, because you're going to find out a lot of them, 40, 50% of what they bring in is to pay someone's salary, their salary, not the staff salary. Right. And we're not going to be that. We're going to be a healthy organization. Right. So, so if any of you all are feeling really philanthropic, www.ulhc.org/donate. So we can get a real professional in here so you can get somebody to make this organization really work.
All right. Stanley Gray, Urban League of Hillsborough County. Thank you for joining us, brother. I know we've got a headshot for you to sign and go up on the wall of fame there, and you see your boss list on the bottom, bottom left there. So you will be up there with him. But I appreciate you coming, man. Keep it up with the Urban League of Hillsborough County. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
Vanguards of Democracy is funded and produced by Vanguard Attorneys, a local personal injury law firm serving the Tampa Bay area with ingenuity and an indomitable work ethic. Don't forget to follow Vanguards of Democracy on YouTube or download episodes on your favorite podcast streaming services like iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And lastly, we're excited to announce that we're launching our new landing page, www.vanguardsofdemocracy.com, where you'll be able to ask questions, recommend guests or topics, and stay up to date with news and announcements. It'll be great. If you know how to bookmark a website, this is the one that'll make it worth it. Thank you.